That's in my training and experience, where people stumble with the selling is not knowing and understanding the fine print. And I'll explain it this way. So,
Mm,
um, the fine print meaning that let's take a vehicle purchase. That moment that you've gone through the emotions, you're happy about the car, and you sit in the finance room and the finance guy is explaining the terms to you. They don't make sense. He's telling you that your first, you're going to skip this month and then your taxes and DMV fees, and he starts disclosing this stuff for you. That's where people often blow the sale because they didn't carry the same charisma. So
mm,
so let me then
mm.
shift it to what my experience was. So I've got this lady that came in, and she's getting 5 cell phones for her husband and her 3 children. That's a at the time, that's an incredible sale. That's the kind of sale you can brag about for a couple days. And but when it was time to explain the contract to her, I said, okay, listen, this is a 2-year contract. Okay, it's 2 years. And the only reason it's a 2-year contract, we want to make sure that we can give you this price that we're giving you for 2 years. Okay. If you leave, though, we have to charge you because we're a company, right? We have to have early termination fees. I'm maintaining the same charisma. I'm maintaining the same confidence. But when I was training some of my reps, they would say, right here is this is your
Ah,
early termination. I mean,
don't turn into a robot, in other
yeah,
words.
yeah,
So
just
the same energy that you came in with, and you're like, that's a great question. Say, ha, ha,
right.
ha, ha, slap on the back. When it
Absolutely.
comes to the fine print,
That
don't
same
get
energy.
all technical with it. Just continue and explain like a real human being, right?
That's right. That's right.
Hmm.
And to add a little bit more to that, and make jokes, and then you would say, I mean, like if you cancel the termination, I'm gonna have to come in after this great service that I gave you. You're gonna offend me if you came in here to cancel, lady. And oh no, and they would laugh. Oh, I would never do that. You're such a nice gentleman. Oh, I know. But hey, on all seriousness, though, if you do need to cancel it, you do have 2 weeks to do that. So I make them feel at ease, and but it's never the confidence has to continue. And I think we talked about this. Avoid ums and uhs and blank stares especially when you're closing. So you say, I think that let me check with some. No, 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 no. If you don't know something, it's best to say, this is new in the paperwork. You know what? I want to make sure that you leave here without any questions. So give me a moment to check that up, right? As opposed to, oh, I don't know, I'm not sure. And then you're triggering that negative emotion that's always there in the buying process, and you're letting it speak again. Because throughout the whole time you've been selling, you've been killing them with kindness, right? And now you one little bad move, and then that voice inside their head gets loud, and they start having second thoughts. And you might walk out the back and come back in. And they go, "Oh, you know what? It's fine. You know what? You know what? Maybe this is just a sign. Maybe I was. And that's where you lose it. So just keep that same energy. And if the customer asks you a question that you cannot answer, think about the most charismatic way to respond to it and say, you know what? That's another good question that you're asking, and that's new because I think this document's a new one. I'm gonna make sure of that for you. But before I check that for you, is there anything else? We just gonna go through these other things as opposed to stopping at items 1 through 13. You get to number 4 and you're stuck, and now you're gonna be extremely comfortable going through 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and so on and so forth. But if you say, okay, this is a good one, let's just highlight this one over here because there's some other good stuff here that we need to go over. This is all the good stuff. And then you go through these other fun stuff. And then when they sign and initial everything, you say, okay, now just to make sure, because you brought up a really good question. Here goes the pumping them with good stuff. This is a great question you bring up, a great concern. It looks like you're a sharp guy that does your homework. I want to make sure you leave here even sharper, right? And then you walk over to the back, and then your manager says, "Oh, maybe you even know the answer, but you're just trying to make sure that it doesn't stop you from getting through the other initials because you never know. It's better to go to the back trying to answer two initials where 2 initials out of 13 have been initialed versus you stopped at number 6 and then number 7 and 9 they have more questions, and then you're going to the back, and then that process starts to wear the customer down, and your perfume or your cologne starts to wear off, if that makes sense.
100%. You know what? And to Young Swift talking about the finessing, yes, that was some more finessing when he said, "You're a smart guy, and I want to make sure you leave here even smarter," right?
That's right.
Like the person, and I'm listening, I'm sitting there listening. I'm not thinking, "Oh, this person is lying to me. How dare he lie to me?" We are mammals. We understand the subtleties of communication,
That's
whether
right.
it be verbal or nonverbal, or this kind of pumping someone up in that particular regard. Now,
everything. In fact, in my training, we used to do I used to do role playing. I would have two of the reps to say, okay, you're the seller and you're the customer, go. And then and when you get through that, because what happens, you want to be familiar with that discomfort. You want to be familiar with that process, and then you get correction and you get direction on how to fix it, how to address it. And then when you're in that real life situation, like I just rightfully said, you get that warmth under the collar, like, oh God, but you've been through that, so you know that all you need to do is stay calm and run through all the initials, and then go to the back, get a drink of water, take a deep breath, and come back out and say, and then come back with your hands like this, say, I have got that figured out for you, I think we're all good to go, right? And then, because again, that goes back to body language, coming out of the back with your shoulders slumped, the customer's going to read that a lot faster than you can imagine.
100. You know what? That's really good. And if I may just kind of mention something here tangentially about another very famous topic in this channel, which is about master your subjective consciousness, which is understanding your system, understanding how it works,
Right.
what are the inputs you need to get the outputs, so on and so forth. You mentioned, okay, becoming familiar with the discomfort, okay? And that's what all that master your subjective consciousness is about, right? So you need to be the observer that has already seen a certain chain reaction happen over and over and over again. Just let's
Right.
say, for example, stage fright. You know you're going to get the stage fright. How do you deal with it? You breathe from your diaphragm so that your neck doesn't tighten up, because what happens, that shaking of the voice, is because people start talking from their neck, and the neck will tense up in a tense situation. So you go from the diaphragm and you control it. You keep the neck loose. You keep the upper body loose. You tighten up the core and you keep the upper body loose. You will not know how to do that unless you have practiced that before. So I'm in front of a giving a presentation now. Things are getting a little tense. People are asking certain kinds of questions, so on and so forth. I know, okay, cool. Things are getting a little heated over here, but my neck is loose, my shoulders are loose, and boom, I'm shooting from the diaphragm, I'm shooting from the core. The confidence is still there. There's no kind of a cowering that's going on.
Right.
And the only way that I can do that is because I practice, practice, practice. And that, whether you want to call it meditation and so on and so forth, which is another different kind of practice, but practice is super, super key. So,
well, always be closing. Let's put that of think about the payout. Okay, always think about the closing, because, but of course we don't want to rush through the process, because there are salespeople that are trying to get the close going, but the customer is not sold yet, right? So be careful with that. But always be closing means start to imagine. There's a power in imagination. Sometimes I would see a customer and I'm already picturing where I had one of my, when I first started my personal consulting, my biggest contract was at $10,000. This was back in 2004 or something. I thought that was like, I could buy a house with that, right? So, I remember, I was just imagining the guy saying, "Oh, this sounds wonderful," right? And anytime that wasn't the case, I would automatically subconsciously find a way to make that steer in that direction. So he would say, "So how do we update this website daily?" And I would say, "Oh, well, it comes with a CMS, which is a customer management system where you can go in there and make changes yourself." And he would nod, and I'm like, "Oh, he's nodding. That's a good thing. That's a good thing." So they always be close and just keep thinking about, yes, right this way, next, come along. Now you would see here, great. Doesn't that sound exciting? You're just throwing those words that are influencing, that are always makes you sound interesting, right? So, and that's so in your head, think about the customer being, if you're selling software, you said, picture the customer using the software. If you're selling hardware, picture the customer using the hardware. That's why you'll often see in some of those commercials, they'll show the person using the tool, because they're subliminally trying to get you to see yourself doing it. So, so that's a closing. That's or one of my favorite moments. Someone was trying to sell me something. Well, it's hard to sell to a salesman because we know when we're being sold to. So he's already putting the product in my house, and it'll run nicely in your dishwasher. I'm like, bro, I haven't bought the product, So he's already closing. He's already picturing the product in my house. Now he's not even talking about me using it. He's talking about me washing it.
Yeah, yeah. It's
So
called
always
talking.
be
Yeah.
Yeah, so always be closing means that just keep thinking about how that, start creating the experience of the product from the get-go, how this is going to transform your life and your workflow, right? So at that point, you're saying it's in your life. So
Yeah,
by the
it's
time they're
already
signing
there.
when they're signing that contract, it's like, well, this is where we were heading to, right? Right.
Exactly. So, and Young Swift, I'll address your question here. Being the resident introvert in the house, I'll address your question about the whole introverted thing. But definitely being able to project in, and if you go back to selling is about simplicity. It's a video that I made, and I have a playlist on sales, for example, so that you can easily just go in and see the things I have to do with selling, influencing, and so on and so forth, right? Because I'm starting to stack up all these videos now. I'm breaking down into playlists. I mentioned there using the visual. Okay, so I am a construction equipment salesperson. I say, okay, so we're building a wall on the freeway, 60-foot high, 300 foot of wall, right? Each of them now is on their own particular freeway of their imagination, right? And there's 300 foot of wall, whatever. And then we continue to talk about that, the problems that come up with that, so on and so forth. And I keep on going back to that wall,
Right.
right? I'm like, yes. And then, when I'm talking about the problems, for example, yeah, the rebar guys never quite lay out the rebar correctly, right? They're like, yeah, that damn thing, so on and so forth. And then when I'm closing again, and then you refer back to the wall. So that this is where, as you said, this is where we've already been going, right?
Right.
We've been going to the place where you're now using my product on that wall.
That's right.
And the key thing in that particular presentation I was saying is that it is best if it is in their head. In other words, showing a picture of a wall is less effective than your ability to have them imagine a wall.
That's right.
Because it's going to be their wall. Maybe they like the walls in a sunny day. Maybe some people like it in a gloomy day. Maybe some people like the freeway with trees on it. Maybe some people don't like the freeway with trees on it, right? That kind of thing. Maybe they like a silver scaffolding or red scaffolding. Let them fill in the details. That way it is their own thing. Therefore, all you have to say is remember that wall, and boom, it comes up in their head.
Right back. Yeah.
Now, the introvert thing, let me answer it this way. It is not you presenting a different personality. It is you presenting that personality that you have when you are by yourself singing in front of the mirror. For example, when you're singing in the shower, okay, there is no introvert way of singing in the shower, okay? Everybody is the same person when they are singing in the shower. Not to belabor the point, but introversion versus extroversion mainly has to do with how you recharge yourself. Introverts go into the cave to recharge. Extroverts can recharge by getting energy from people and so on and so forth. That drains introverts. So, point is, you want to be so comfortable, and that goes to my video that I made when I said, be the most comfortable person in the room. Acclimate yourself to the room, make that room become your shower, is pretty much what I was saying, right? You're used to your shower, you're used to the environment, or your bedroom, or so on and so forth, and then you can go off and do your thing. Hence, through ever means, that's why I asked you the question about practice, right? Through whichever means, through whichever subjective practice and internal practice and self-practice that you do, or role playing and so on and so forth, what you want to do as that introvert is make that sales room, that sales conversation become your shower, and you can project it and you can do all that kind of stuff, and you've already practiced it. And no matter what, there is no excuse. The whole introvert thing always comes out whenever we're talking about sales, because introvert want to go and hide. But I'm the resident introvert here. If I can sell, if I can come out here and do my dog and pony show on YouTube, if I can go out there and give speeches in front of people and so on and so forth, and sell them and pick up the phone and make cold calls, you can do it as well. Okay. Right. So the ABC question, I like the way you kind of put that, in the sense that always be closing, always be imagining the close, and have that pull you in. It's almost like you're imagining this future and it pulls you in. And also you're selling a future to somebody. That's what you're not selling a product. You're selling a vision of the future. I don't care if it's a knife or a phone or a piece of, or some kind of stationery, paper, that kind of stuff. You're selling the experience in the future of when they do have that thing, how it's going to look on their desk, how it's going to make them feel, right? That's why, again, it is a very emotional aspect of it. Okay.
There's an interesting rhythm to that, because the more sales that you get, the more experience you get closing, right?
Okay.
And there was a salesperson that I worked with. She was very good at getting the customer excited, but wasn't good at closing. I had another sales rep that had a difficult time even starting the conversation. And when she started the conversation, she would just overwhelm them, and then they would just be frightened and not want to buy. And so she kind of relied more on the I want to buy, I don't care who's selling to me customer. So what you want to be a little bit of both. You want to be because closing is a continuation of everything that you've been doing prior to getting to closing, right? So and getting the customer in, that's where you start the sale. That's where you start. That's where the door opens for you to come in and influence the emotional state of the potential buyer, because you're, like I rightfully said, you're selling them an experience. That's where you have an opportunity to show them the future, that hey, based on the decision that you made, this is what's going to come into your future after you leave my presence, right? Or in B2B sales, you're saying, hey, this is what your business is going to need. Send this to the person ahead. So that's where you start that process. So, but specifically, are there some people are more comfortable when it comes to closing? Some people aren't as comfortable. But if you know that your charisma in terms of how you start the sale and how you continue the selling process, overcome all the barriers, if you just continue those soft skills, closing is no different. The only difference, I think, with closing is where you really have to understand the terms and conditions, because that's where you have to become somewhat a little bit more logical. And not at this point, the pampering is gone. So in other words, if we're selling this person a car, I have to tell you that for the next 6 years, 5 years, you're going to have to send this amount of money every month. You're going to have
address.
Right. You're going to have to get insurance, on this car, and you're going to be responsible for the repairs, potential recalls. So you're going to have to let all of that go, and it's nerve-wracking if so it's okay again, as I mentioned, it's okay to feel but that's the part that if you want to be somewhat more comfortable, that's where your comfort must be, because in some kind of sales, there are returns. You can make a sale and the customer wasn't satisfied, or you didn't say something, it puts a bad reputation on you, and some of those sales could come back and you can be deducted in your sales depending on what kind of product or experience or service that you're offering, because they could be returns, right? So the key is focus on being the introduction to the customer, and the relationship, the mini relationship you build with the customer is extremely important, because there are some sales that you'll do where your job is just to get the customer to feel comfortable, pump them up and get them all excited. And then eventually they connect you with some guy who looks like he wants to go home. I'll give you a quick example. I was working out a business loan for one of my clients, and I got through the first person, the second person, they were excited, and all of a sudden we get this guy there and going, name, phone number, email address, spell that for me. He had no, you could tell he hated his job. Okay, hold on a moment while I run the credit. I'll be right back. He didn't ask for me to say sure. He comes back later on. Let me transfer you to the underwriter. Give him this reference number. You have a pen handy? Like, I'm like, hey, where's the niceness? I was enjoying the high five, right? And when I got to the underwriter, he looked like he was ready to go to lunch. Yeah, so I'm gonna send you these documents. You know what? Hold on one second. I've got another call. Like, it's like, hey, what's going on? But they knew that we've got you where we want you. So a lot of times, that process, the introduction, depending on what's being sold, of course, that also can make a difference. But it's important to have those initial, I just met you, I'm going to make you comfortable. I'm going to make sure I'm attentive and responsive and show that I'm responsible, things like that. Those are key. So if you're going to work on anything, work on that, because you might have a sale where maybe you're not the one that's closing it. Someone else is closing it, but you want to leave a good impression so that the job of the closer is already done. Even if the closer has an attitude, the person is so hyped up on you, they're so drugged up by your niceness, they're not even going to notice, or they're going to resist the negative energy. I say negative energy in quote, right? Because after someone's been high-fiving you and calling you sir, yes sir, and so, oh yeah, no problem, for an hour, and so someone go, hold on a second, you do, it stings a bit, right? So that would be my take. Just it's the start of the sale, the middle of the sale part. That's where you want to make sure you get your skills together.
Shout out to Bernard Riley for the super chat. Bernard Riley in the not the super chat, my bad. For the Cash App, ladies and gentlemen. And Nicer left the link over there. So hit up the Cash App, okay? Hit up the Cash App. This is me trying to close you on the dollars, ladies and gentlemen. So
That's right.
basically, you're saying, or let me say the reason why I asked that question, okay? Because everyone is going to go in there and we're going to need to do everything from the prospecting to the relationship building to the closing and then the post-purchase kind of follow-up, trying to get referrals, so on and so forth. We're going to need to play in that whole arena. But we need to understand that there are people who are naturally better at task A versus task B. Okay, so if you have a certain kind of a personality, don't be discouraged and think, oh, you know, coffee is for closers. That's the name of the title here. And this is a famous line delivered by Alec Baldwin. You can find it. Just Google coffee is for closers and you'll see the thing there. Okay. Thinking, oh, I gotta be a closer, or oh, I gotta be a relationship person, or oh, I gotta be a backslapper. That's not me. No, you're gonna find something that you're particularly good at, and you're not gonna even realize that that's whom you are. Take me, for example, classic introverted type. Okay, you would not necessarily guess what the part of the sales process that I'm good at if you did not know. Okay, but let me tell you, what I am is a fantastic closer. Okay. But when you think about it in a couple of ways, it makes sense. First of all, you mentioned that in the closing part, that's when you need to know the details.
Right.
Okay. So introvert, engineer type, I got all the logic, all the detail stuff down. I know it all the way, right? I know exactly what's going to be happening, all the technicalities in and out. I know it. Okay. And then why I'm good at, and this is comparatively now, I'm better at closing than the relationship side, also makes sense. I'm an introvert. I'm not going to be the guy that's asking you about your family and so on and so forth, right? There are people who are great at that. Point is, sales is about it's a team effort. Again, we are all going to go in there. We're all going to do some cold calls, some prospecting, so on and so forth. We're going to do all these different things. But over time, we know whom is good at what. I know, like, when I pick up the phone and I'm talking to a client, I don't ask them about their weekend and so on and so forth, because it doesn't come off as natural. But guess what? When I'm with Lauren, and yes, Lauren is literally her name, okay? Lauren in Portland, right? She asks like 3 questions deep. I'm like, wow, I don't even know how you do that, Lauren, right? Oh, was that the baseball and the this and that? Yeah, blah, 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 blah. Oh, the new park and whatever. I'm like, oh my God, Lauren, like I would not, I don't even, but when it comes to closing, okay, when it comes to digging in there and, you know, dodging the bullets, keeping the confidence, doing the song and dance, bobbing and weaving, I can do that all day. Okay, so you would not necessarily think or not necessarily know what you're going to be good at based on your particular personality. But trust me, even if you think, oh, I'm an introvert, I don't really want to talk to people and so on and so forth. But closing is a performance. It is an emotional kind of boost. It is something that could be learned. That's why you practice. Now let's talk about
in the den of iniquity, vicinity no pretty, calamity fi hit we any moment, what a pity. Tomorrow never certain, what dwells behind the curtain, the face of evil smirking with the shifty eyes averting. It's not a steady bubble, that either pop or topple, many will fall and stumble, let the dozers gather rubble. From LA to Colorado, Guinea to Burkina Faso, cannons could reach the towers and the troops will storm the castle. Hey, I say, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, come, make me get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. I say, run, come, make me get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. Lord, run, come, make me get it. calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. With the rubble steady rising and hearts are compromising, convictions here are stifling, making evil appetizing. The fists are steady forming and countenance is falling. Defenses are withdrawing, possibilities are falling. In these your circumstances, evil will make advances. Pick up your sword and lances and be sure to take your stances. Victory is never promised, the battle is upon us. Gather the brave and honest and the righteous in your corners.